Hello guys, welcome back. I'm your host, Linux Anape, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking a little bit about Docker. All right. So first of all, what is Docker? This is very important for developers, DevOps engineers to understand this, right? So Docker, if you go to Google, let's type what is Docker. See what Google has to say, right? Docker is a software platform that allows developers to create, test, and deploy applications quickly by packaging them into containers. Very, very, very important. So Docker, like I said, it's a software that you use when you want to deploy applications. Understanding Docker can also make understanding programs such as Kubernetes a lot easier once you understand the fundamentals of Docker, right? So on the last video, we talked about how to clone a repository from GitHub using the git clone command, and I actually got a comment on the video. So let's see what the comment says. Hey, Linux Anape, great video. Once I clone a repository, how do I run the install? Right? Thank you, Destiny, for your question. Shout out Destiny7478, Destiny Siddle 7478. And you actually inspired the idea for this video that we're putting out right now. So as you can see, I comment back. Hey Destiny, thanks for your comment. I'll be publishing a video displaying this soon. In the meantime, here's the GitHub repository for the Docker install, because I actually have to go through a verification process in order for the link to work. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and get started with this installation. All right. So in the previous videos, we went over a few things, right? So we created a Linux virtual machine called Dirk. We actually created an A record to point right to the public IP address of Dirk. That way it makes it a lot easier for us to log in to this virtual machine from any and everywhere. We also cloned this repository called Docker install onto the Linux virtual machine. So let's go ahead and go take a look at that particular repository, right? So as you can see here, I'm currently on my local machine. Now, one trick that could definitely be beneficial whenever you're dealing with virtual machines, when you're on your local machine, instead of having to SSH type it all the way out into your Linux virtual machine every time, you can actually click the up arrow. Now, this will take you through the previous commands that you entered on your local machine, as well as your Linux virtual machine. You can use the same commands. It's only going to show you the commands you entered on your virtual machine. Very useful, very efficient, can save you a lot of keystrokes. So instead of us having to type out the full syntax, we can click up a couple of times, press enter. Then what it's going to do is going to request the password. All right, now we're in there. So let's go ahead and clear, give us a clean screen. Let's see where we at. And as you can see, that Docker install directory that we cloned from GitHub in the last video is there. So let's CD into that. And as you can see, we have a README file and a bash file. What is a bash file? So let's go back to GitHub and let's take a look at this file that we cloned here, right? Now, what a bash file takes a number of commands usually used for installing different programs, different software, and it packages it into one file. That way, instead of you having to enter all of these commands individually one by one, what this is going to do is package all those commands into one file, and all you have to do is run this file in order to perform all of these commands in order. So it's important that you verify what order that you put these particular commands in. So just to give you a little bit of understanding on what's going on here, we have to enter sudo in order to run these commands because we aren't added to the proper group in order to not have to enter sudo, which this file is going to add you to that group automatically. It's very key for automation, makes you more efficient, makes you faster, makes it easier to perform whatever job duties you need to perform. Right? So as you can see, we're going to update the virtual machine first. We're going to run the curl command, do some downloading here. We're going to obtain the key, add the repository, update again, install the container. All right, the compose plugin, which is very important, Docker compose plugin. We're going to request the version. Then we're going to start Docker, enable Docker. Then we're going to add our user to the user mod Docker group, which is going to allow us to run these Docker commands without having to enter sudo every time. Then we're going to run a simple Docker container, a Docker image rather, hello world. We're going to request the version again. We're going to reset to clear the screen. And once you see this image, this prompt at the bottom, finish Docker install, that's how you know everything worked properly. So like I said, if it wasn't for this bash file, we would have to enter each and every one of these commands individually. It's just not efficient. So we're going to make this an efficient install. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and come over here. And just so you know that Docker is not installed, here's how we can verify that. Let's try to run a Docker command. So, of course, we would have to enter sudo since we're not part of the group. And let's sudo Docker ps. All right, let's enter that. Nothing. Oh, well, looks like I spelled Docker wrong. It happens. It happens. So let's spell it right this time. Sudo Docker, and let's try Docker images. As you can see, sudo Docker command not found. All right, which means we need to install Docker in order for us to be able to run a Docker command. All right, so and how do you run a bash file? Right, so what you want to do is bash, and then you can type D and it'll finish it for you, since that's the only bash file in this particular directory. So let's go ahead and run it. Let's see what happens. So now it's going through all of those commands within that bash file in sequential order. All right. So you're going to see a lot of different things going on here. We're going to let it go through this process. All right. As you can see, we've been given a prompt. So we can either press enter to continue, control C to cancel. We want to continue. So let's press enter. And it's going to continue the process. All right. As you can see, it's working. Still working. It's going to give us another prompt after this operation. 442 megabytes of additional disk space will be used. Do you want to continue? Let's type Y for yes. Let's click enter. All right. It's going to continue the process. All right. And everything looks like it's working properly. You can always scroll up to see, you know, step by step exactly what's going on. But like I said, creating that bash file makes this 1,000 times more efficient. All right, scanning the process. Gave us the version as we've seen in the bash file. Reset, and as you can see, finish Docker install. That's great. That's perfect. Looks like everything worked. So let's run that same command we ran earlier. Docker images. Oh, looks like we, okay, let's run Docker. Now we see the permission is denied, but we do know that it gave us something back that time. So let's try Docker version. All right, dash version. As you can see, it gave us the Docker version, which is perfect. Because before, we couldn't run a Docker command. Now we can. All right. So now you have Docker installed. Now you can run any Docker command that you want to run. Everything looks like it's working perfectly. It gave you the version, and that's pretty much how you install it. So, like I said, all you guys go to my GitHub repository. You guys get your virtual machines up. Go ahead and start installing Docker. And then in the next videos, we're going to practice a few different Docker commands, understand how to pretty much run Docker, and how to get the most out of this install that we just created today. So once again, thank you guys for joining. Stay tuned for the next video. I'm your host, Linux Sanape. I'll see you next time.